Hi, this is Dr. Bourne, and with your professor for religion and sports. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about the final exam to give you a little bit of background and some information that you'll have that hopefully will be helpful. But before that, I just want to say thank you so much for your patience, for your flexibility in this crazy semester. And I really hope that you're able to gain some insights on the relationship between religion, sports, and culture, and you're able to use some of these ideas, whether in your own sporting endeavors or your own profession, your own as you become leaders of organizations, and you go out into your profession. You're able to take some of these ideas of collective effervescence and bonding and building collective identity and totems and all of these ideas and apply them in your own life, in your family dynamic. It's like, so you're all moving in the same direction. It's like, how do you build bonding within a team? And so a lot of these skills and a lot of these ideas can be applicable outside of just the classroom experience. So, but I do want to thank you for your contributions and everything. So especially with this semester didn't go, especially with this class, didn't go according to plan. So, but we're moving forward. And so finally, we're on the final exam. You made it. So here we go. One thing I do want to note, there's two parts of the final exam, like there was with the midterm. And so there's going to be an objective portion that'll be on Moodle. And again, it's going to be pulled, those questions will be pulled directly from the reading quizzes. And that's going to be out on Moodle. And just like the midterm, it'll be timed. But yeah, you can take that and it'll be due at the same time on Friday. I just have it right now. I just have it due Friday, 12/4. I think that's the last exam day. And then I'll turn these around as quick as I can. But really the key thing to doing well on the essay portion is much like the midterm. The key to scoring well on the question is showing familiarity and command of the concepts and providing support for your responses. You need to provide support for your responses and ground that support in the text or specifics from class. Either through the exercises or through working with your teammates or through my short lectures. Really the idea is you have to provide support for your responses. That's where you're going to be, the difference between getting a high A and lower grades is really, it's the evidence that you're providing for the claims that you're making. And I tried to make that clear in my comments on the midterm exam. So as with the midterm, I'm willing to meet with all students before the due date. You just have to get it to me to allow me some time to provide feedback, maybe 24 hours before the due date or up to 36 hours before the final due date, so I can provide some feedback and you can incorporate that feedback. Okay, so the first part of this, choose 2 of the 3 questions at 20 points each, and do choose. Make sure you choose 2 of the 3, and don't do all 3. That's too much work. So so choose 2 of the 3, and then do them well. Okay, so this first one, what are the ways in which sport and spirituality can be related to one another? Okay, so part 1 looks at this, okay, can sports help bring about higher spiritual awareness? Why or why not? Okay, and I ask you to explain Watts's assessment of the above question in his article, Nature and Transcendence, the Mystical and Sublime in Extreme Sports, because he talks about the difference between sort of a natural or a nature transcendence versus a nature interaction versus a transcendent being, connection with an actual transcendent, such as God, a Christian notion of God. Do you agree or disagree with his response? Okay, and so again, you do not have to agree, but this is the key part. Why or why not? Okay, and you need to provide reasoning for why you don't agree or why you do agree. So about that, can sports help bring about higher spiritual awareness? Okay, and so that's really the thing. Is like, and so you can use some other texts, you can use your own experiences, but you really need to ground your response in some detail. Okay, part 2, now we're flipping it. And so the first one is, can sports bring about higher spiritual awareness? Now this one, can spiritual practices lead to greater performance in sporting endeavors? And we did some readings on that. And so what kind of examples can be used to support your claim? So can spiritual practice lead to better performance? And if so, if you think so, okay, provide some examples, provide some support from the authors we read, the exercises we did. So that's the first question. The second question, we discussed one main challenge in sports is that there is always a winner, which necessitates a loser. The zero-sum approach of sports is sometimes criticized for its inherently competitive nature. So Cooper the reading from Cooper, addresses some of this tension between art and war, while other authors have addressed the tension between pride and humility. Okay, so we did some readings. Each team did a reading, and there were 2 readings, and two teams read each article. So you can pick your article or pick the other team's article. That's fine. But using the readings and your own experience, how can we best overcome this tension? Is it even possible? Can the attention paid to winning be reconciled with the positive virtues developed through sports? Okay, and so if so, how can this be achieved? How can the idea of humility help? Okay? And so we talked about all those different notions, all those different approaches to humility. In one, I think it was in the Kretschmar piece. So what happens to the value of the individual in sports when winning becomes the only thing? Can this tension be resolved in any way? And you could even use the TED Talk on the Positive Coaching Alliance, or the New York Times articles from the Positive Coaching Alliance. And so this is really up to you. So like which readings you want to use. I say here, be sure to use the readings to which your team was assigned. You could use any. So I'll actually. I'll change that. But I mean, really, it's like there's a wide variety. There's the Cooper piece on art and war. That chapter. There's the 2 articles on pride and humility. There's the Positive Coaching Alliance and the activity that you did. And so really, there's a lot of options. You don't have to use all of them, but again, the idea, we're talking 3 to 5 paragraphs, and so I ask a lot of leading questions here, a lot of prompts to kind of like get you thinking. But you don't necessarily have to answer each specific question that I ask. But really, it's 3 to 5 paragraphs and just make a convincing argument. So the third question, we haven't touched on it yet, but Baker gives credit to the KKK for the rise of Notre Dame football in American society. Recount his argument and justification for this claim. Do you think this standing is still warranted by Notre Dame? Why or why not? That's actually what we're going to be reading and talking about on Tuesday. So and that's pretty straightforward. So pick 2 of those 3. Pick 2 of those 3 and hold on. Okay, pick 2 of those 3 and move on. Okay. All students respond to the following. Actually, it's just the following question. I took. Oh no, following 2 questions. There's 2 questions there. Sorry. Okay, so this is like the larger question based on the reading we've done over the last couple of weeks. So over the course of the semester, we saw how the American Protestants moved from eschewing sports and speaking out against them to embracing sports and becoming a bastion of sports fanatics, i.e. college football fans. How did this transition happen? Okay, so remember going all the way back, we're talking about the Puritans and many of you talking about the notion of work and focusing on work. Okay, that was from the midterm exam. Okay, the separation of the body and the soul. Is there anything that focuses on the body? Is it to denigrate the soul? And the idea of work, it's like you don't have time for leisure because you have to work because you got to prove that you're part of the elect. So, so Hoffman and Baker are the primary sources for this response, and this is worth 30 points. So again, what we're doing here is we're linking the theological ideas to the impact on sports, to the perception of sports. So cite and explain 2 major changes in Protestant thinking at the end of the 19th century or beginning of the 20th century that contributed to the new attitude towards sports. So I say cite and explain 2, and there's more than 2. Okay, so you just have to pick 2. Okay, so cite and explain, and make sure when you cite and explain, if you say the social gospel movement, well, then you need to go and you need to spend 3-4 sentences saying what is the social gospel movement. Okay, so how do these changes link up with the social gospel movement and muscular Christianity? Okay, that's something that is in the chapter muscular Christianity, and so you can talk about that. We didn't necessarily cover it in my lecture or in class, but we did talk about the social gospel movement. But muscular Christianity is in the text. You'll be able to look at that. So how do these new theological concepts impact the perception and spread of sports in general and specific sports in particular? Okay. And so you had football. We talked about this shift in football and how it was perceived to be just barbaric and filled with gambling and drunkenness. And so, but you had World War I, and you had some, okay, maybe sports should be in preparation for for war. So you can talk about that. And so it's not necessarily a theological concept, but it's an important shift in thinking. So how wide did the South lag behind the North in their embrace of sports? You can talk about how this is right after the end of the Civil War. There's still some animosity. They were not part of that liberal theological movement that happened in the North, and with some of the schools. And so how did they lag behind? And also, I mean, they certainly lag behind in their embrace of football. Finally, what specifics led to the explosion of college football as opposed to other sports as a sport completely embraced by the South in contemporary society? And that's where we can talk about the Rose Bowl. You can talk about Alabama and the Rose Bowl. You can talk about, again, this notion of this idea of after World War I, football is a little bit is not nearly as barbaric as trench warfare. So there's a lot of things that you could do to discuss that from the Baker text specifically on this. So combine those, and you can look at the listen to the lectures again. Go back to your notes. So, but it's really the whole idea of this question is to continue this line of thinking of how the theological ideas and changes in theological ideas, whether it's the perfectionism, the millennialism, the revivalism, the social gospel movement, muscular Christianity, that these theological movements, the body is temple movement is one of them, but these theological movements had a direct impact on how those religions understood sports and the role of sports in culture and in that particular religion. Okay, so finally, just a reflection on religion and sports. I just kind of want to get your thoughts on, I know it's been a strange time, but you've been on teams, and during the midterm, I asked, what that you reflect on some of the main themes in the course in the context of being part of this team. And so now I just ask, like, if you were teaching this course, how would you promote the bonding of the teams in the virtual hybrid mode that we experienced? We ended up, we started out, most of us in the class, and we did a couple of activities together. But, then, we had people quarantining, we had people out. And so we kind of created a challenge. So really, I'm just asking for your ideas. So I'm asking for 2 ideas. Note and explain 2 ideas to build bonding, and if possible, link them to some themes in the course. Not necessary, but it'd be helpful. It may also be helpful to reread your response on the midterm concerning the team relationship. If you need that, I think they're all in the middle. And then over the time of the course, how has the relationship between yourself and your team changed, if at all? Do you identify with your team now? Again, we couldn't really gather in person as teams nearly as much as I normally do in teaching this class. And so, if not, what could we have done things differently? And so that's really what I'm asking. If I teach this class again in this kind of modality of an online hybrid mode, I'm looking for some, your responses. You're on the receiving end, I guess, of this class. And so really it's like, should there be, what changes could be put in to help create those kinds of experiences when we're not all personally together? So that's really what I'm trying to get at there. And just again, as we move into the future and you start to lead companies, organizations, and families, I invite you to come back to the themes of this class and creating bonding and collective identity, because it really can be helpful to you as you understand the role of organizations and how organizations function and how teamwork functions. So hopefully you can draw on some of the experiences and some of the readings and some of the ideas in this class. But with that, if you have any questions, again, I'm available. Shoot me an email, shoot me a text, give me a call. And I look forward to reading your responses. With that,